Hey guys, it's Neka Agnes Wachiku. This is Neka Agnes Wachiku. I'm coming to you guys today live to let you guys know I have not forgot about uploading my second podcast. Unfortunately, YouTube has given me a hard time with uploading my podcast due to copyright issues and due to other issues. It's being difficult. YouTube is giving me a difficult time because obviously my content is not able to convert to this system that they want me to convert it to. So if any of you guys out there know a way where I can convert my audio into YouTube's term, give me a shout out, give me some information here in the comments, give me some feedback. Like, YouTube is giving me a difficult time. It will not allow me to post my podcast. And mind you guys, I have a total of 39 podcasts. Literally, I have a total of 39 podcasts. I'll give you the titles. My very first one, of course, was about, disclosing, what my podcast was going to be about. I gave you the title of my podcast, and of course, the information that I gave in the first one was about thoughts on women using their vagina as revenge, the fatal attraction, one night stands, men that stand you up. My second podcast is actually about, women using their vagina as, as revenge, and I'd go into a little bit more detail about that. I also talk about men giving full disclaimers. I talk about age gaps and dating. I talk about one night stands. I talk about men standing you up. And then my third podcast, it was actually about a crime show on YouTube about Talika Patrick. She's missing. She's currently missing. I talk about different things. I actually have a link to that particular YouTube page that talks about her disappearance. My fourth one is about the mark of the beast. I talk about religion. I talk about the Most High God, Jesus. I talk about the specifics about the mark of the beast. I talk on podcast diaries number 5. I talk about female hormones. I talk about having a baby by the wrong man or having a baby by a man that does not want to be your husband. I talk about love at first sight. I talk about delusion. I talk about why men stay in relationships but don't want to get married or have kids. A lot of my podcasts are over 10 minutes. Another thing I talk about in podcast diaries number 6, I talk about how to determine whether a person is a man or a woman. I talk about the confusion between sexuality, and what I mean by that is how people determine if they're straight or if they're homosexual, if they're gay. In podcast diaries number 7, I talk about missing children. In podcast number 8, I talk about, it's mostly a live rant. I talk about podcast diaries number 9. I talk about just different things. Podcast diaries number 10, same thing. I talk about Tupac in podcast diaries number 11. Podcast diaries number 12, I talk about the sister code. What it means to be, a real woman and understanding the sister code. And podcast diaries number 13, I talk about men who don't listen. In podcast diaries number 14, I talk about women, how they should be grateful about not being pregnant by the wrong man. And podcast diaries number 15, I talk about dealing with underlying slick, hateful comments. I talk about, in between 16 and 17, how a man can turn you off and he can still be physically attractive. In podcast diaries number 18, I talk about Lisa Left Eye Lopez and her death. I talk about my response to a podcast that I watched on YouTube. On podcast diaries number 20, I talk about how I give up on love, but I don't condone other people giving up on love. In podcast diaries number 21, I talk about the meaning of delusional. People who have delusional thoughts and actually believe the delusional thoughts. Podcast diaries number 22, I talk about how you don't ever question or second guess yourself. If you're intelligent, you are intelligent. Don't let people think that you're slow. podcast numbers, diaries number 23, I talk about how I feel like, question my confusion. Am I confused about, what the Bible has been teaching me about relationships, about, the 12 tribes of Judah. Podcast diaries number 24, I talk about sex before marriage. Podcast numbers 25, I talk about trust and communication in relationships. 26, I talk about lies in a relationship. 27, I talk about a man accepting me for me. If he doesn't, he should just leave me alone. And podcast diaries number 28, I talk about witchcraft and sleep deprivation. Number 29, I talk about a live rant that you guys have to stay tuned on. On podcast diaries number 30, I talk about, not telling your intimate details or telling people your next, move, just to, kind of hinder people from trying to stop you from your goals in life. And podcast diaries number 31, I talk about society and, how backward society is. And 32, I talk about, a podcast or a show that I watched on YouTube. I was giving a response on how a transgender tricked a man, and you just guys have to stay tuned for that. And podcast diaries number 33, I talk about, Paid in Full, the movie. I give a full response. It's so juicy. And podcast number 34, I talk about a story time, a story that I wrote. 35, I talk about be careful with who you attach yourself to. 36, I talk about being careful who you communicate with and attach yourself to, especially if you're being lied on. And podcast diaries number 37, I talk about how I don't care about what people think about me when it comes to dating and, wanting to meet a new man. And podcast diaries 38, I talk about when I dealt with a broke ass nigga with stink ass breath. And last but not least, 39, I talk about me taking accountability for my actions. So please, guys, if you really truly support me, give me your feedback. Give me knowledge and wisdom on how I can upload these podcasts, these juicy podcasts, these interesting podcasts to you guys, because I genuinely want to give you guys feedback on my experiences and what I feel like is right. And I just need you guys. I need your help. Help me, guys. Until next time, see you later.